All right, this is 200 Q&A number one, Mr. Patton, Craig Patton, Cora. Do you remember what you were doing at the time?
If I was in that area of the building, I was unpacking boxes.
I take it you have no specific recollection of what you were doing.
When he was staring at me, I was definitely unpacking boxes.
What was in the boxes that you were unpacking?
They were boxes of CDs.
What do you do with them as you unpack them?
I just take them out of the large cardboard boxes they come in and put them on the shelves they go on.
Do you have to read the labels of the CDs as you put them on the shelves?
Yes, because each one has an individual shelf it goes on.
Do you face the shelves when you're putting the CDs away?
Yes, but I have to walk out of the room with them each time.
You take them out of the box and walk them over to a separate area where they are shelved. Is that correct?
Yes.
Where is the area you shelve them in relation to where you unpack them?
It's an area over by the fax machine and the copy machine.
And you are unpacking them with your back to the kitchen area.
Basically, yes.
Then you take them out of the box and walk them into another room and put them on the correct shelves. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am, that is correct.
How long does it usually take you to unpack the boxes?
It depends on how many we get in for the day.
Can you give me any kind of an estimate as to how long the unpacking takes?
No, I really can't.
Does it take you more than 10 minutes to do it?
Yes, it can take that long.
Does it take you more than 15 minutes to unpack them?
Well, sometimes I don't have to unpack them all at once.
So if you have other things to attend to, it might take you more than 15 minutes. Is that right?
Yes.
But you wouldn't be unpacking the boxes for more than 15 minutes normally. Is that right?
No, not usually.
What is in the area in front of you as you are unpacking the boxes?
There is a door that comes from the lobby and the wall.
And behind you, I take it, is the copy machine and the fax machine.
No. The fax machine is in front of me, and to the right of me as I face the wall is the copier.
As you are unpacking a box, to your right is the copy machine, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Is there a copy maker in the room where you unpack the boxes?
Yes, there is.
Now, the first incident you mentioned where you felt that Mr. Patton was staring at you is the day you were unpacking boxes, correct?
Yes.
Can you tell me what happened that first time, please?
When I turned around from what I was doing, he was just standing there staring at me. And I think he was staring at me when I had my back to him also.
When you turned around, you saw him looking at you, correct?
Yes, I did.
But when you had your back turned, you don't know whether or not he was watching you, but you suspected that he was, correct?
No.
No, that is not correct, or you don't know?
No, that is not correct. I felt like he must have been just standing there staring at me when my back was turned.
When you turned around and saw Craig Patton looking at you, did you say anything to him?
No, I didn't.
Did Mr. Patton say anything to you?
No, he didn't.
How far away from you was he at that time?
He was about 20 feet away from me.
Was there anyone else in the immediate area?
No, not that I recall.
Other than this one time you have told us about, do you have any other recollection of when you felt that Mr. Patton was staring at you?
Sometimes I felt him staring at me when I was at my desk trying to work.
Do you know for a fact that he was staring at you, or is that something you suspect?
I know for a fact that he was staring at me. I would look up and see him.
Other than that, do you have a specific incident in mind when you believe that Mr. Patton was staring at you or acting inappropriately to you?
There was another time when I was in front of his office and he was standing right outside of it and he wouldn't move to let me get by.
Was there anyone else present when that occurred?
No, I don't think so.
As you were trying to pass by him in front of his office, did you speak to him?
No, I did not.
Did he speak to you?
Yes, he did.
What did he say?
He said, "Cora, you look hot today."
Do you recall any other incidents of this nature?
Yes. There was one time I was walking down the hallway and he stood there staring at me the entire time.
How long does it take to walk down that particular hallway?
It all depends on where you are coming from.
That particular time, how long did it take you?
About 15 seconds.
What was Mr. Patton doing while you were walking down the hallway toward him?
He just stood there staring at me the whole time.
Were you carrying anything in your hands at that time?
I could have been, but I honestly don't recall.
Can you recall any other incidents where you believe that Craig Patton was staring at you or behaving inappropriately?
No, not at this moment. I should have documented all of them.
Did you ever confront Mr. Patton and tell him that you thought he was staring and that you Okay, this will be 200 Q&A number 2. Proper names: Philadelphia, Barton Road, Stokely, Barton, and Fox. Did you explain to him how the accident happened?
He didn't let me tell him anything.
You did not tell him how the accident happened?
No,
Did he ask you how the accident happened?
no,
Was the driver of the truck that was involved in this accident with you while you were talking to the Philadelphia policeman?
not anywhere around us.
Where was he?
I don't know.
Did you see the Philadelphia policeman speak with the driver of the truck that was in the accident with you?
I saw him with the driver of the truck and the 2 men.
Did you hear any conversation between them?
I was sitting in my car a half a block down the road.
You did not hear any conversation?
No,
No, there was no conversation between the driver of the truck and the policeman. Is that correct?
no,
Did you see them speaking?
yes.
Where were they when you saw the driver of the truck and the Philadelphia policeman speaking?
They were in a group near the car of the other 2 men,
About how far was that from where you were located?
about a half a block and across the street.
When you saw the driver of the truck talking with the policeman at the car of the 2 men, was that before or after you yourself spoke to the Philadelphia policeman?
Before,
What was the speed of your vehicle at the time the accident happened?
I would say about 15 miles per hour.
After the initial impact and you felt your car sort of move down and up, was that the first notice you had that an accident was happening or about to happen?
Yes,
After that time, how much time went by before your car came to rest, if you remember?
15, 20 seconds, maybe 15 seconds. I don't know.
In that 15-second span of time, do you know how far your car traveled after you felt that first down and upward movement?
I don't know because part of the distance that I traveled was alongside of his car, alongside the truck,
You don't have any idea how far that was, though.
like the length of the truck.
The entire distance your car traveled after you felt that up and down movement was the length of the truck.
Yes,
Was your car stopped or was it moving when the accident happened?
moving.
How long would you estimate that truck to be that was involved in the accident with you?
30 feet.
You indicated, I believe, that Barton Road itself is 2 lengths wide at the intersection with Stokely. Is that right?
Yes.
Now, there was the ramp for the expressway. Is that right?
There was also a wedge between Barton and the exit of the expressway.
Is that wedge to your right or to your left?
To my left.
And in relation to Stokely Road, where did that wedge end?
I believe it's slightly past Stokely.
In other words, if you had attempted to drive straight on Stokely, you would have hit that wedge. Is that correct? If you were in the right lane.
Right.
Again, so that we're clear, there are 2 lanes on Stokely, the left and right lane. When you stopped at the stop sign, which lane were you stopped in?
When I stopped at the stop sign, I was on the right-hand side.
Again, if you wanted to go straight, you would have ultimately contacted that wedge. Is that right?
Right.
At the stop sign, you came to a full stop. Is that right?
Yes.
Before you proceeded, how long did you stay stopped there?
4 cars had to pass me about, so I would say half a minute.
Now, were there any cars behind you at Stokely?
No,
Were there any cars in the left lane on Stokely?
no,
Were there any cars ahead of your car in the right lane on Stokely?
no.
You were the first car at the intersection when you were stopped.
I was the only car.
Do you know of any witnesses to the accident?
The driver of the pink truck.
Was this the one that was stopped?
Yes, and my daughter.
Did you obtain any information concerning the owner or the driver of the pink truck
He was gone by the time we had our accident.
by the time the dust settled?
Yes.
Do you remember any markings on the truck of identification?
No.
When you were stopped at the Stokely stop sign before you proceeded, waiting for those 4 cars or so to go past you that were on Barton Road, How many lanes were there for the ramp area on the other side of Barton, the far side?
I would say 2.
Now, when the collision occurred between the truck and your car, which lane was your car in?
The right-hand lane of the expressway off-ramp.
Of the expressway off-ramp?
Yes.
I mean, the accident did not happen on the expressway itself, did it?
No.
It happened on the ramp, is that correct?
It was on the off-ramp of the expressway.
When you were at the stop sign at Stokely, how far to your left could you see down Barton?
I could see down to the next red light, which is a good-sized block.
This was the light at Fox, as you think it may have been?
Yes.
Could you say how long that would be in feet?
10/10 of a mile.
Do you mean 1/10 of a mile?
10/10. It's a block.
Can you say either in car lengths or feet?
No. 1/10 of a mile.
Okay, next is the 180 Q&A number 1. Pronouns: Dwayne Ellison, Detective Ellison, Richard Scott Judson, Lucille Lindner, Miranda, Deborah Joan Lawford, Mrs. Lindner, Mr. Judson, Richard Sergeant Nordite, EMT, and West Colper. State your name for the court and jury, please.
Dwayne Ellison.
What is your occupation?
I am a detective in the juvenile department.
Detective Ellison, how long have you been a juvenile detective?
3 years next month.
In the course of your duties as a juvenile detective, have you had occasion to take statements regarding the crime alleged homicide from juveniles?
Yes, I have.
Approximately how many times?
Well, I know there have been 6 homicides that I have investigated that involved juveniles. In each case, I would say I took statements from 3 to 6 juveniles.
So we can safely say that you are familiar with the procedures for interviewing juveniles.
Yes, sir.
Would you tell us what you normally do in taking a statement from a juvenile that you have in custody as a suspect?
There is an advisement of rights with a parent, guardian, or legal custodian present.
Did you take a statement from the defendant, in this case, Richard Scott Judson, on April 28, 1991 at approximately 2:25 a.m.?
Yes, sir, I did.
Preceding that statement, did you advise him of his rights, and were there any parents or legal guardians present at the taking of the statement?
I did advise him of his rights. His grandmother, Lucille Lindner, who was his legal guardian, was also present.
Did you advise both of them jointly of their rights at that time?
Yes, sir, I did.
Would you tell us what rights you advised or stated to him?
I advised him with the usual Miranda. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have a right to talk to an attorney and have the attorney present while you are being questioned. If you are unable to hire an attorney, one will be appointed to represent you before any questioning if you wish to have one present.
Following that advisement by you, let me back up. You read that advisement off of a card, did you not?
Yes, sir. It is the advisement card that I carry with me at all times.
Okay, now following that advisement, did each of them acknowledge that they understood what you told them?
Yes, sir, they did.
Did you ask each of them separately?
Yes, sir.
And each of them said that they understood.
Yes, sir, they did.
Following this statement, did they state whether they wished to talk with you further concerning the case involving the murder of Deborah Joan Lawford?
Yes.
Would you tell us where this took place, this interview?
At police headquarters, Central Station.
Would you tell us what those facilities look like generally?
Well, it is in the new section of the building. The partitions are half wallboard and half glass with many blinds that can be closed for privacy. It is pretty soundproof.
Was there anything unusual about the atmospheric conditions at the time?
Do you mean like the air conditioning or air circulation?
Yes, that is what I mean. Exactly.
Nothing unusual. Everything was working.
Did you observe the condition of Mrs. Lindner and Mr. Judson?
They both appeared to me to be normal, other than being nervous and probably uncomfortable.
Did either of them appear to be under the influence of any drugs or intoxicants?
No.
Following this advisement of rights, did Mr. Judson make a statement to you surrounding his involvement in this case?
Yes, sir, he did.
At any time during the course of the interview, did he indicate he wished to have a lawyer present?
No, sir, he did not.
At any time, did Mrs. Lindner indicate she wished the interview to stop and she wished to have an attorney present?
No, sir.
All right. You said there was nothing unusual about Mr. Judson at the time you interviewed him?
Just a little nervous. Other than that, he was quiet.
Physically, did he have any injuries?
Yes, he did.
What kind of injuries did you notice?
As I recall, what appeared to be a puncture wound on the anterior part of the left elbow.
Did you ask him what happened?
Yes, I asked about it.
What did he say?
Said he had been stabbed over in the county jail.
That same night?
Yes, earlier.
Did he get any treatment for that injury?
After our interview was over, I called over to the jail and talked to the head jailer. I notified him that Richard would be coming back and that he did have this wound and it should be looked at before they locked him down.
Did he receive any other kind of treatment while he was at the police station?
Sergeant Nordite, who also has EMT training, brought in the first aid kit that we have. He cleaned the area and covered it with a bandage.
All right. During your interrogation, did you ask what had been found in the apartment at 8932 West Culper?
No, sir.
Weren't you aware that there had been a search of the apartment?
I had heard there was, yes.
Did you ask Mr. Judson about the deceased during the interview?
Yes, sir.
Did you ask anything else about the apartment?
I remember I asked the location of the bed.
Is that where the body was found, or did you ask about the location?
No.
Okay. 180 Q&A number 2. Ms. Lawford, Mrs. Lindner, Paul Morris, Richard Judson, and Mr. Judson. Did you ask about the location where the body was found?
Yes, I asked him about that.
What did he say?
He said something about the bathtub and that the plastic shower curtain had been pulled down and wrapped around the body.
Did you ask him any questions concerning the death of Ms. Lawford?
Yes, I did.
Did you ask any questions about the crescent wrench that was found next to the body?
Not in that interview. I believe that was the second interview.
All right. Did Mrs. Lindner ever ask for an attorney at any time during the interview?
No, sir.
Did she ever mention the word attorney?
No, sir.
Did she ever use the word help?
How do you mean that?
Like we need help or we should get some help?
Not that I recall.
Was a polygraph examination given to the defendant?
Yes, sir.
How close to the time of your interview was it given?
I don't know.
Did you have anything to do with the giving of it or the consent for it or anything like that?
I was present.
Who asked the defendant if he wanted to take a polygraph examination?
I did.
Why did you do that?
Just as an investigative aid.
What does that mean, detective?
Just to help me out in my investigation of this case.
How did you gain permission to take this polygraph examination?
They signed a typed waiver.
Who signed it?
The defendant and his guardian. It is read and signed by them. It is issued by the examiner.
Did the polygraph examination take place right after this interview?
No, sir. It was the following day, which was Saturday.
Who was in the interview room?
The examiner, who is Paul Morris.
Who was the representative for Richard Judson during the interview, or I should say during the polygraph examination?
During the polygraph examination, his grandmother was there.
Did you interview Mr. Judson after the polygraph examination was completed?
Yes.
Okay. Then during the polygraph examination, did Mrs. Lindner ask for an attorney?
She did not ask personally. She made a statement to her grandson.
What kind of statement did she make?
I can tell you exactly what she said if you will let me check my notes.
Fine with me.
She said, I am getting nervous about all this. I think you should have a lawyer.
To whom was she speaking?
She was talking directly to Richard Judson.
Do you have a copy of the typed waiver in your report?
Let me look. I don't seem to be finding it. I am sure there is a copy back in my files.
Did you give a copy of this signed waiver to Mr. Judson?
Yes, sir, I did.
Did you give a copy to Mrs. Lindner?
Yes, sir.
Did you have time to go over the results of the polygraph examination during this Saturday interview?
Yes, sir, I did.
What sorts of questions did the examiner pose to Mr. Judson during the polygraph examination?
He stayed within the parameters of the questions that Mr. Judson had answered during the prior interviews.
All right. Did you ask him who was the person who did the actual shooting?
Yes, sir.
When Mrs. Lindner made the statement about getting nervous without an attorney, what did you do?
I terminated the polygraph examination at that point.
You didn't go into anything further.
No, sir. I thought we should be on the safe side and postpone any further inquiry until an attorney had been appointed for Mr. Hudson.
So that was the end of the interview?
Well, the end of the interview was quite a while after the polygraph examination.
Didn't you just say that Mrs. Lindner had asked for an attorney during the polygraph examination and that you terminated the interview?
No, she made that statement to Mr. Judson. He said that he was fine and to just get it over with.
All right. What did Mrs. Lindner say to that?
She said, okay, go ahead.
Then when did she make the remark about getting nervous, etc., etc.?
After the polygraph was completed and we were going over the results.
So her remark about getting nervous was to you and not to Mr. Judson?
She said this twice. The first time was to Mr. Judson and he wanted to continue. The second time was to me and I stopped the examination at that point.
She actually made the remark about being nervous twice then?
Yes. Let me check my notes. Here it is. The second time she said, I am really getting nervous.
You had stated earlier that Mr. Judson had been stabbed in the arm?
Yes, that's what he told me.
Did you determine what weapon was used to stab him?
He told me it was a sharpened pencil.
Did you say earlier that he was given first aid?
Yes, after our first interview.
Did he receive any further medical attention that you know of?
I called the jailer, as I said, and he said he would call the doctor who was on duty that night.
Did you personally check on this incident?
I asked that he be separated from the other inmates or other people in the holding cell.
Did you inquire about the wound when you next saw him on Saturday?
Not specifically. I noticed it was bandaged, so I assumed